pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A roll call of members.
Mayor Moore,
Here.
Trustee Kim Trombley. Here. Trustee Greg Martin.
Here.
Trustee Steve Southwick.
Here.
Trustee Amy Garrett.
Here.
This time I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We'll now have the public comment period. We have representatives from Grenier Car here. Would you guys like to go first again?
Sure, that'd be great. I'm Matt Cooper from Grenier Car. I think a few of you were at the Town of Champlain, Village of Russell's Point meeting that we had earlier this year. I recognize just one or two faces. With me is Joe Hawley, who just started working for our firm this fall. He's actually covering a water and sewer project we have in Westport, but he's based out of Plattsburgh and may be stopping by time to time, gathering data and working on these projects that we have in this area. So I wanted to bring him with me tonight so that you get a chance to meet him. But just a little background. We've been working for the town of Champlain, I guess, for probably a little over a year now. Initially looking at Route 11 Water District, and following that, they had interest in some other projects, the West Service Road and South Street. And in that, we had some coordination with the village. If those projects were to happen, it would require coordination with the village and connection of water and sewer utilities. And then through those discussions, Woody had mentioned that there were some concerns that the village had about your own utilities and possible future projects. So yeah, I was asked to prepare a proposal, and I hope that most of you have had a chance to read that by now. Backs it up. I don't know if you have had an opportunity to read that.
We haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
It's in your correspondence. Should be.
No?
I didn't see it.
I brought it in the office to be copied to everybody when he faxed it to me.
Well, that's okay, we will review it.
Sure. But I can just touch on the highlights here for you. A couple of the concerns that Woody expressed to me when we met earlier this summer was first, water quality, and second, water storage. The tank and the water quality with high iron and possible hardness problems were a couple of things that he expressed concern on and would want us to look at in doing the study. And the water storage thing kind of goes hand in hand with the town's projects. And I think that's one of the reasons we contacted us directly to talk about that, is because that it would make sense to have us involved with that, since we're already working with the town and those projects may go hand in hand. So I did prepare a proposal based on doing a study and report on those, and also looking at funding scenarios through that. And what we did have here would be a fee that would be based on hourly rate, not to exceed $4,500. And like I said, that would include study of those two issues, preparing a report for it that could be submitted to the funding agencies, and coordination with Department of Health on those projects, and also with the funding agencies. So, I'm sure you have some questions.
Yeah, well, I guess this is our first step. This is what we need to do now. We would like to continue to provide service for expansion in the village and outside the village. And we feel that, some of these water pressure issues, quality issues are going to hold us back. And we most certainly don't want that to happen. So I guess we're looking at moving forward to see where we can go with this. Options are available. We're working with the town and the village of Rouse's Point. We're trying to come up with ways of doing these things the way they make sense. You know, we have kind of a patchwork now. We've added districts here, districts there, never really planned for tying things back in, looping, and things like that. And we need to address those issues if we're to continue to expand and broaden our service.
And with the new border crossing facilities, although I have heard them mention that that will cause no further water demand on your system or no further sewer loading, it's hard to believe that, you know, that many millions of dollars are being spent up there and there won't be any more water flowing back and forth.
Yeah. Well, we want to take that into account.
Yeah, exactly. So there definitely are some things to plan for at this point. And the funding picture seems to get worse, you know, year by year. Rural Development, who does most of the grant funding for the sewer projects, has made an announcement this year that no single project will be funded more than $500,000. If you're looking at a $2 or $3 or $4 million project, you know, that component would be 25% or less of your project, and quite often that would leave a project unaffordable at that point. The Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, which is usually a major component of a water project grant fund, is still there and still available. There's a scoring system involved with that to qualify. Basically, the way it works, in summary, is the more problems you have, the higher your score, and the higher your priority for getting funding across the state. So, but like I said, you know, those communities that turned down projects 5 and 10 years ago when there was 75–80% funding, many of them are regretting that decision because the picture's getting to 70%, 60%, 50% grant funding all the time. Monies are being demanded elsewhere across the country and now around the world with hurricanes and wars, so it gets tougher and tougher each year.
Yeah, well, Amy and I met with the state a couple of weeks ago, and they're telling us like 10% of the grants are all that are being approved at this point. It gets worse and worse as time goes by. It doesn't look like it's going to get a whole lot better real soon.
Not in the immediate future. Yeah, I agree. If you want time to take a look at this or to think about it further, you know, I can get you additional copies of these if you don't have them, of our proposal. But if it's something that you're fairly certain you want to go forward with, I can prepare an agreement for services and mail that up to you this week.
Yeah, as Amy and I found out at that meeting, that's the next step. You really can't go any further without doing a study. The thing we are looking at is doing this in conjunction with the town.
Mm-hmm.
So we do want to look at that funding option also. But that's where we're headed next. However it happens, that's where we have to go next, is engineering study.
Is a study necessary for the wastewater plants as well,
For
for redoing it?
is there work planned for that you would like?
We're looking at changing our
Changing
system
it.
from the bagging system to a belt filter press.
It depends on if you're going to be seeking funding for that. Any funding agency would require a study and report. If it's something you're going to do internally, it's your decision as to, you know, what type of technical review you would want on that, whether you felt comfortable making those types of decisions on your own, or you would want you know, some expert advice on that.
Well, we're hopefully looking to get grant money for all of these things.
Yeah, that would require a report. That's the first
No,
thing most
we don't
funding
have a
agencies.
money tree in the backyard, we forgot to grow it.
That's the first thing most funding agencies will ask. Have you gotten a report prepared? Because they want to know that you've looked at all the options and that you have done some type of budgeting, some type of cost comparison. What is the most affordable and feasible option? So that's one of the first things they'll ask, is if you have a report prepared for that.
And then once you have the report, do you write the grants?
A lot of the grants require information directly from you, but we're quite familiar with that. We'll help you prepare it. And pull it all together for you.
Is there an additional charge for that as well?
No, because our philosophy is if you don't get funding and there's not a project, then you don't need an engineer. So,
Right.
Quite often we extend ourselves quite a ways on these studies just to help the project get started.
If I could add something, I've got some information on a shared services grant is available through the state. The deadline is early January to apply for this. And this study that Matt is talking about is one of the things that, yes, exactly, that would be covered under that. If, you know, we were to be awarded the grant. And if we do it with the town, because the village, everybody needs the tank, we need this, we need that, it would be, and this is something that Senator Little is really pushing. He's had inquiries here in the past about that. So I think that's something worthwhile looking into to help fund the study that Matt is talking about.
But the study, Mickey, doesn't need to be completed in order to apply for that grant. We just need to all be in agreement that we're going to go in on the shared services of improving the water tower and the quality.
And you have to have more.
No, this will pay, from what I'm reading in there, this will pay for what he's talking about, the $4,500, the seed money to do the study. It won't pay for the project, but it'll pay
Correct.
towards the study of what's needed.
Correct.
As long as there's 2 or more municipalities that
Right.
come together to
Yes.
investigate this.
And when we went to that meeting, it was almost a member item for certain things, but Rouse's point would have to be included in it, where this is strictly a village-town venture here.
Yeah, and just in summary here, it says the grants may be used to cover legal and consultant services, feasibility studies and implementation plans, capital improvements, and other necessary expenses.
But I know the deadline is early January, so if we're gonna apply for this, I think we have to move.
Right. I know Greg has looked at that, and I've looked at it as well. Hopefully at the meeting the 21st, we can
Yeah.
set a timeline for making sure that is completed by that due date. It doesn't look to be that too complicated. It's just that the main focus is to make sure that there's more than one municipality involved to show
Right.
an intent to share services.
I think that's where we need these gentlemen, is for the figures.
Right.
We need the dollar amounts.
So we do need to start with them and then
I-
apply.
I think
is
so.
the issue. That's
And it appears that there may be funding for this, and this would be a good time to act quickly. Yeah, and in light of, impending Wyatt closure, we need to look at any development that we can bring into the area is very, very important at this time, and I don't think we should delay at all.
Matt, is that something that you guys could help us with?
Sure. I do see, what they do ask for a budget summary, total project costs, so you do need to have some identification of project scope and project cost.
Okay, so can you do that in the next 2 weeks so we can meet the deadline?
We will have to have,
Seriously, I mean, really, that's what we're talking about, right? We've got
Yeah.
a deadline
Well,
coming up,
yeah,
we
we
need
need to get-
figures.
yes.
Is that something you would be able to accomplish for us?
Yeah, we have a meeting next Wednesday, a joint meeting, I
Right, the
believe.
21st.
That hopefully will
Yeah.
help us identify the scope at least of the
Right.
project you'd be looking to do in conjunction with the town. And from that, I think perhaps we could develop those costs and have them prepared in time. This is a January 13th deadline,
Right.
which is about a month from now.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it would have to be 2 to 3 weeks completed. And of course, we'd want to review it with you before we put the numbers in the application. Yeah, that's possible. They're going to be very rough figures at this point,
So, no, that's been what we've been working with.
but you at least have to have a dollar amount in here.
Right.
Right.
You can't just say, we need help without identifying how much you're asking for.
Right.
We'll figure out how to use it later.
Okay, then any other questions for Matt or Joe?
How's it going in Westport?
Great.
Is that all funded?
Pretty much, most of it is. Project's moving along ahead of schedule. We got about 65% of the water main in, the new main for the village, and the sewer plants moving along on the schedule also. With the filtration tanks, the walls are all poured, we're backfilling and doing site work, and, things are moving along very well. Been blessed with the weather. It's been, last week we had some frigid days, and this week it's getting colder, and, contractor's limited by temperature and his equipment operating. That's about the only thing. The men can stay warm and work in the cold, but, it's good, going on really well.
Greatest, what the total cost of the project is?
I'm not too positive of the figures myself, personally.
There's quite a bit going on there. There's actually 4 separate general contracts. There's the water plant, the sewer plant, the water distribution lines, and the sewer collection lines. There are actually 4 separate GC contracts for that. I'm not certain what the total contract is.
You put up a new water tower?
We're putting 2, I believe.
2 water towers.
I'm on hand mostly as a on-site representative for the engineering firm for Greenbar and for the town to oversee the work, make sure the contractor's doing the work according to spec, and being there as a liaison for the town.
What's their water source, the lake?
They utilize the spring
We have
source.
They got 2 towers, we only want 1.
It can't be that much bigger than what we have here.
System-wide, no. I mean, I think it's a similar sized community, so.
Yeah, Westport is not so much bigger.
Right,
In
right.
fact, I think it's probably smaller.
Could be. Probably looking at that. Some project.
Any further questions? Thanks, we will review that as soon as we get a chance. Have a code enforcement officer's report?
Just an update on a few of the things you had asked me for, where the buildings, the one in the corner of Main and Elm, they removed the back portion of that building.
Thanks.
So that's secure now.
Yeah.
The old patio building, I spoke with them and they sealed that up. The only one I haven't gotten any contact or any reply from is the corner on Church Street and Main Street, Titanium Era. So we resent them a certified letter where, for a response this time, because they've got a lot of broken windows and you can get in that building fairly easy. The other issue, I don't know what you want to do with that. This is Weir's place. It's boarded up, secured, there's nobody going in, going out.
She goes in and out.
What's the next step? I mean, if we go get somebody, they call it a surveyor, it's not a land surveyor,
No,
somebody to go in and look at it.
Right.
What happens if they determine that the building is unsafe? What happens after that?
Well, they would make a report back to the village what their findings are. Either it's safe, unsafe, it should be torn down, it should not be torn down. I mean, I think at this point, all we're asking for is to have the contents, the garbage that was there that we saw this winter removed. But that's gone through a season from winter through summer, and it hasn't been as bad as what I originally thought it was going to be. I mean, nobody's complaining about any smells coming from there or anything like this. I mean, God only knows what's in that place. But I'm just looking at it as I think it's going to be very expensive for the village to try and enforce the cleaning of that building. I mean, I'm not a village board here, but if the building is secured, nobody can get in there, or, the local neighborhood kids aren't in there and it's not a threat, I don't know if it's really worth going after her for this.
What about some of the buildings, like that building like on the corner of Elm and Main Street? Now, that's getting close to where the roof's gonna come in on that. Where do we end up with something like that?
Until it actually collapses, there's not a lot in the building code that I can do with it. It's probably not safe, but as long as nobody can get in there, and until it collapses, I mean, probably a poor choice of words, but until something happens, really, there's nothing that I can really do. Because, yes, the roof is sagging, well, maybe it's sagged for 10 years, 20 years, 100 years. Or maybe it's gonna collapse tomorrow, who knows?
Yeah, it's got a pretty big hole in it, that's why I don't,
On the old Grange Hall, I mean, the one on the corner of Church and Main,
you know,
I just noticed all
Elm
the.
and Main.
Elm and.
Right next to the bridge.
Didn't he tear something
Oh,
out?
that one there, no,
The
I
one
was
that
talking
didn't
about
pay
the
the
other one.
buyout.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
well, he tore off the back half of that, all the stuff that was falling down, that's all gone. The doors are all sealed. But yes, the roof does have a big hole in it. But as long as no one can get inside of that, if it were to cave in, I mean, he's liable, he's responsible for it. It's not a liability for the village.
Okay,
The liability for the village, I would say, is if we don't keep people from going in there. Like, if we don't enforce closing up the buildings, things of that nature. But he has not, actually, I spoke with him again today. So, I mean, I'm happy with what he did. I mean, I'm not happy with the condition the building is in, but that's a different issue. You know, what he considers a good building and what I would consider a good building are two different things.
What about the basement window at this Weir's house? There's no windows in there, they just
Yeah,
got a screen over
that's
them.
just about to say.
Right, well, that's
They're not
not,
boarded,
And I guarantee you there's rats swimming in that, because I went in that place
there's
last
everything
winter.
in there.
And it was not pretty safe, the amount of food and stuff that's in there, it's a breeding ground.
oh, I'm not doubting that. All I'm saying is that the doors were shut.
Uh,
You know, we checked to make sure there's no water in there, because if they freeze a meter or something, then it becomes a village problem. And apparently that's been shut off.
Right, but this summer she took the boards off the lower windows.
in the basement.
All it has is a chicken wire
Right.
screen
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah.
That's not gonna stop anybody or anything.
Anything.
Well, I can, you know, ask them to board it up. You know, it should be boarded up for the winter. I mean, if I own the building, that's what I'd want to do, but I can't say what she's gonna want to do.
So we just leave a condemned sign hanging on it until it falls into itself.
Well, the options are, we go the rest of the route according to the village code, and as Mr. Keeble pointed out, that's gonna get expensive for both sides. I just think there are other ways of probably accomplishing the same goals here, but not spending any money.
Mike, do you ever get to talk to her?
Yeah, she came to see me one time, but it wasn't the best of conversations. She was sort of mad at me because I had sent her these letters, and she wasn't gonna have anybody tell her what she's gonna do with her house, and so on and so forth, so, you know, it stayed there. Mr. LaBelle was doing a lot of work for her, and I've talked to him quite a bit, and he's tried to coax her into doing something with it, cleaning it, but she won't let anybody go in there and take any of the stuff out. She's very possessive. You know, what one person thinks is junk, another person doesn't. So it's a hard situation.
Do you think she'd be agreeable to coming and talking with us at a board meeting?
You know, she'd be mortified.
And I don't think she would do that. I think I could probably talk to Mr. LaBelle, he seems to know her fairly well, and probably get him or get her to agree to board up the cellar windows. You know, we can try to, I mean, there are provisions, excuse me, for the cats and all. I mean, they shouldn't be feeding those cats outdoors, that's just drawing rats, cats, skunks, you name it, everything else. The whole, anything living in the village is feeding down there.
Who's feeding the cats?
She is. There's feral cats in that other building.
She has a big plastic litter pan out there full of food.
Yeah.
How many cats did we have that were destroyed?
I caught 3
5?
upstairs.
Was it 3? And
Three
they were,
I caught 3
they all had
upstairs.
feline leukemia, they were
Oh, yeah.
extremely ill. And it's a breeding ground for the constant infestation of all animals in this village.
That place should have been cleaned out when it was frozen.
It's gonna be frozen again here soon.
well, we're open to suggestions. You know,
Yeah, any other
what you
thoughts?
think we might
I've
do
tried
is-
2 or 3 times with her, with Mr. LaBelle, to force her to clean it out, and it was not successful. I mean, she just flat told me that she's gonna get a lawyer to fight it. So, I mean, I really don't know what to do with it. I mean, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I personally, I don't know what to do with that situation, other than board up the cellar. And I don't believe she's ever gonna stop feeding the cats, and I don't believe she's gonna ever let anybody come in there to catch the cats and take them to the shelter or wherever.
Well,
I
guess
mean, short of law enforcement getting involved or something like that.
Well, I guess the best thing to do, I guess at this point, for sure, is to try to get that boarded up, because you know, it is open. I know those cellar window, I've been walked by there, it is open.
Yeah, there's just a thick wire on there, but, yeah, things can go in and go out, there's no doubt about that.
Some don't come out again.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the process from the official standpoint of the surveyor? He comes back and he says it's condemned, what happens after that?
Well, then it would be up to the village, depending on what his findings are. If he decides, and her surveyor decides that the place should be cleaned out, then there would have to be some sort of court order. You know, we'd have to get something from the local judge ordering them to do it, and if they don't do it, then it would be the village's responsibility either to do it or hire someone to do it. And that's where the expense comes in.
But then we can put the expense back on her tax roll.
Right. You're gonna get paid for it, but it could be a while. You know, if you have to go through the whole process of condemning the property and selling it for payment and all this type of stuff.
Well, I just think if we close our eyes to it, we're setting a precedent in the
Yes.
village,
Yeah.
which is not a good thing.
That's the only thing.
Unfortunately, you know, I'd like to work with her and do whatever we can to help her along, but she's not looking for the help.
Well, we need to find out what it would cost us to proceed on to this next step before we do something that we might regret. We'll have to find out, or at least do a little investigation here and find
Can you
out.
get a price on
what-
that, Mike?
Well, I can call Mr. Keeble and ask him, when he mentioned a surveyor, exactly what type of person are we looking for here? An engineer or just a contractor or a third not uninterested,
Right.
but nonpartisan party to it.
Right.
And depending on what they would charge, I mean, they would go, I would go with them, and probably somebody from the village. I certainly wouldn't go there alone, nor would I want anybody to go alone, because it becomes a he said, she said.
Correct.
And she has the right to have someone present at the same time,
It's a
just
good idea.
to verify if she so chooses.
Right.
And then based on what that report comes back at, then the next step would be up to the village of what do we want to do? Do we want to go to get a court order?
And that wouldn't cost us, because the judge will write the court order without having to.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll move into the public hearing and continue with the meeting after. This is a public hearing to hear input on the proposed village law number 2 of 2005, which would be to eliminate the village justice position. Open the floor to comments by anyone on that.
Think it's a great
Well,
idea.
there being no comments, let's close the public hearing. And we can vote on that, on new business, the law then, or proposed law. Okay, Nikki, do you have anything else?
No, I think I covered everything, other than the price choppers coming along good, the strategic lens, they're really moving along.
Yeah. Are they
Time
ahead of
of year.
schedule?
I don't know that they're ahead of schedule, but
Looks good.
they're doing a lot more. They're farther now than I thought they would be. I
Yeah.
mean, just
It's exciting.
observing. Actually, I'm scheduled to go out to the price chopper tomorrow morning. Guy wants to see me there, so.
Now, something going into the Grand Union, have you heard? Because they cleaned that guy out. They're working on Sundays and everything,
Yeah,
tearing it down.
they had a job just to gut the inside of the building. There were some issues with the flooring, the tile on there may have been asbestos, so they want to get the building ready for the next tenant, whoever's gonna rent it, and I don't know who that's gonna be, I haven't heard anything. When they come in, they're gonna build it or remodel it to their specs. So basically, it's site ready, you just gotta tell us what you want in it. But I don't know of any store. I haven't heard of anything.
Have you heard if that Price Chopper's on track for April opening still? or-
No, I'll ask him tomorrow though.
Okay.
Other than that, there are no other big projects coming to town that I know of. Of course, everybody knows Irving Oil's closed and Dunkin' Donuts is no longer there, which I hate to see go.
They're looking for a place though, Dunkin' Donuts.
I might lose a few pounds this week.
They're working on a deal to move him to 1187's diner.
Oh, cool.
Taco Bell might be with him.
Wow. We're up and coming.
Okay, well, thanks, Mike. Is there any other public comment from the village residents? Okay, we'll move on to mayor's report. I guess as everybody already knows, we're gonna have a shared services meeting with the town and the village of Rouse's Point, December 21st, and everyone can go to that. It's an open meeting, so we can all go if we want. I'm hoping that we can make some headway there.
Now, will we also, Jeff and I, be discussing the wastewater too as part of the shared service?
Well, at this point, we're focused on the water.
Okay.
We do want to bring that up because that will be a problem for us if we get much bigger. You know, we need to be able to handle the loads that we're going to be getting. But for now, we're just trying to get on board with the water right now. But we do want to proceed with that also. And that'll be brought up there also, I'm sure. But, meeting again with the Economic Development Subcommittee tomorrow. That's for the Wyeth closure. I think we've made some headway. There's a lot of people from the state that are trying to help us draw business in here. It's a good time for us to be dealing with these things, these shared services, and be able to expand our services. So I find these to be quite helpful because there's a lot of people there that can help us out, that can steer us in the right direction. And hopefully we'll be able to get some things in here. We do have some time. So, and we got our sander truck from RP. I want to thank them for selling us a sander truck. We've had it in service. It's helping us out. We appreciate that. Amy and I met with Terry Dool and Fred Testa from New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. They help municipalities with grants, tell you, they don't do grants, but they tell you what you need to do to be able to get grants. So they give us a lot of useful information, and we'll be bringing that to the town with us next week. I want to remind everybody not to block the sidewalks during the winter months. We've had some problems with the sidewalk plow not being able to get through because people are parked on the sidewalk. We put a notice out, and I just want to remind everybody again not to do that because it does keep us, it's very inconvenient, and it keeps us from keeping the sidewalks clear. We also got an award from PERMA for getting a score, loss control evaluation score of 600 or greater for the year 2004. And we got a thank you from the American Water Works Association for being involved with them. And that's all I have. Now I have the trustees report. Trustee Trombley.
The only thing that I have is I did contact Mr. Trahan from the town and Mayor Rivers from the Village of Rouse's Point regarding the Time Warner cable contract. And Mr. Trahan said that they had started working on it quite a while ago, just looking at it, and they haven't done much with it lately. They're kind of waiting for the new board to settle in, and we'll pick it up again. And Mr. Rivers said that, they have some different issues with Time Warner right now that are ongoing. But they did both agree that there probably will be a joint meeting at some point where we will all sit down and start working on it, and told them that when either one of them decide that they want to get together, that I would be the point of contact for the village of Champlain. So hopefully after the first of the year, the new board gets in, I'll contact them again and see, start doing some joint work on it.
Thanks, Kim. Any questions for Kim? Okay, Trustee Martin?
Attended the shared services meeting with Steve. The concerns with the town turnover, are those going to be addressed this time? Will there be town representatives there who are knowledgeable about what's going on?
At the upcoming meeting?
Yes, on the 21st?
Yes.
Okay, because we sat there, at the last meeting, I don't know, I kind of felt that Mr. Barkham really,
Yeah, he wasn't in the loop of things, I guess, at the time. But the sitting board has been invited to this meeting, plus all the members of the new board, including the alternates that may or may not be elected, however that all shakes out. That's the secret so far. Everybody I could think of, I sent a letter to.
See this
Thanks
on the
for doing
cover
that, by
copy
the way.
thing? Yes, thank you. All of you have a copy of the Northeastern Clinton Central Schools harassment, anti-harassment policy. I've looked at the village policy, and it's pretty inclusive. I just would like to see us with a signed statement in our hands that the village has provided this information to the employees, and that we have a signed copy from them that they have read and understood the policy. I think that will help us down the road with any future issues dealing with discrimination or dealing with anti-harassment or harassment issues, just so that we can go back and say, well, we have an understanding that you have read and understand that policy. Right now, we don't have that, I don't think, do we?
The harassment policy is included with the personnel policy.
Yes.
Which they do sign off on.
Okay. But I would,
If you want it done separately, well, that's something different. But it
Yeah.
is included with personnel policy.
okay, I just would feel from the village standpoint, from my own standpoint, I just feel that a separate issue, a separate signature on this, on the harassment policy, I think would be of benefit to us. Mr. Mayor, you brought up the sidewalk. We have a sidewalk law. Okay, so that we can get the sidewalks clean. Woody's done I think his crew has done a great job in keeping the sidewalks clean. Is that new machine working out fairly well? Very well.
Very well.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions on Greg's report? Now we'll proceed with Trustee Southwick's report.
Just have two things I wanted to mention about the sidewalk unit. I think it's a great thing that we have that in the village now. It's a lot better than what we used to deal with. And hopefully we can keep it together and make it last 10 years. That would be great. Makes a big difference in my mind to have that, and also the capacity to sand the sidewalks as well. I want to compliment Woody on finally doing, or I shouldn't say it that way, I should say on doing something that gets me off his back, and that's to take care of Mrs. Trombley's siding over here. Thank you very much, Woody, appreciate that. That's really all I have.
Any questions on Steve's report? Well, I just want to thank Steve and Greg for the work they've done so far on this Shared Services Committee. I know they've spent a lot of time on it, and Mickey also. And I just want to say we appreciate that. That's a lot of hard work that somebody has to do, and I want to thank you guys for doing that. Okay, Trustee Garrett.
I'm really short today too. I need to call an executive session to discuss an employee disciplinary action. The lighting contest is going on this week, so everyone have your lights on all week long. You'll be judged through Saturday, so any night the judges could go out and be looking at your house, so be prepared. And an idea I just want to throw out with you guys, I'm thinking about possibly pulling together a winter carnival for the village of Champlain. Possibly the week the kids are out of school, just throwing in a couple activities. I was thinking of going to the different organizations in town, like the Catholic Daughters, the Knights of Columbus, and see if they want to run an event or something. Just kind of want to get your thoughts on that. Just want to do a little bit more with the community. You know, we've got that great rink, and we could do some events down there, do a sculpting contest like they do down in Plattsburgh. It's really fun to do, and I'm sure the guys could bring in some snow for us for sculpting. But I went to the sculpting down in Plattsburgh last year, and all you do is take a block of wood, and you get these things at Lowe's. They range from $1 up to $2 that carve and shape the snow. It's wicked cool to do. It's really simple, and the kids have a great time. And it'd just be something to spruce up in front of the ice rink there. We could mound the snow and you know, come up with the different things. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out and see. Not asking for help, just what you think on it. I'll pull it together. If you guys are interested in trying to do something like that, and you know, I'll check with the different organizations too, if they want to help run some events.
I think it's a great idea, as long as we've got snow to pile up.
Yeah, that is a key. That is a key. It'll be just fun, just to try and get some more community events together. It was nice when we had the cookies and the hot chocolate and everything, and you know, I'd go with donations for that again, and you know, have a introduction to the skate rink. Just let everybody know it's still there, and you know, even bigger and better than last year.
Anything we can do for the kids is a benefit.
Yeah, keep them busy during that week. It's really tough. You know, they get a little stir crazy.
That's a good idea.
Okay. I'll give you details next month as to what I've come up with then. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions for Amy? If not, we'll bring up the vote on the executive session, last order of new business at the end of the meeting. Okay. Now have the report of the clerk treasurer.
Revenue and expenditure reports have been copied for the board. We have 3 purchase requisitions, one for a hydraulic motor for the sander, one for a peristaltic pump for sodium aluminate, and one for 3 computers and 1 laser printer.
Okay, I'd like to deal with the hydraulic motor and peristaltic pump now, and deal with computers under new business. We'll take these both together. The purchase recs are for a hydraulic motor for the sander at $146.08, and the peristaltic pump for $214.20. I would entertain a motion to pay these POs.
Both of them?
Yeah, I'll put them together because,
So moved.
unless we have any questions. A second?
Second.
Second by Kim. Okay, is there any discussion on these 2 items? If not, we'll proceed to vote. Trustee Trombley?
Aye.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Southwick?
Aye.
Trustee Gary?
Aye.
Mayor Moore? Aye. Okay, we'll move to the presentation of the warrant. Everyone have a chance to look at that. I would entertain a motion to pay the warrant.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on the warrant?
Youth program, 2,590, what is that for? What do we get from?
It's during the summer, like the softball and all that we
Is
do
that coaching
with
and
the
equipment?
town. Yeah, that we do with the town. That's our share of it.
I think it's an annual payment, that's
Yeah.
why it's larger,
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah, it's just one.
And
So
basketball.
long.
Okay. Under China Moore's dog control, when we had that shared services committee, this was one of the topics that was brought up. What are we getting for our money here? I don't know how many calls that we have had for dog control issues here in the village, but I think overall that the town and the village of Rouse's Point, as well as ourselves, we're kind of wondering about this expense. I guess we can just question that. Can we question that later on, or is that how we want it? Is this a budget time issue?
Well, yeah, I think it is a budget issue. We have asked them to give us a quarterly report of what they do, because we were just paying this, we weren't getting a report back. Greg, and you're correct, we need to know what we're paying for. Are we getting our money's worth? Do we need to do this? You're right, and that is another budget item that we will need to be looking at next month.
Have we received any reports from him?
No.
Nothing
Last
at all?
year we did, and we have requested quarterly reports.
Yeah.
It's always a constant to get it.
Well, that's something on shared services.
Yeah, that was a pretty good topic of discussion.
Out of insurance. Guess that's all I have.
Okay, we'll have a roll call, trustee Champlain,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
Aye.
trustee Southwick,
Aye.
trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Mayor Moore, aye.
Excuse me.
Okay, we'll now have the report of the superintendent.
You all have copies of the work report for the last month, and then I have a few other items to go over as we go through. Are there any questions for the work report? About the work report?
Couple UFDO. What was it? I don't know.
Underground facilities,
Protection Organization.
we have to go out and locate our water and sewer lines so other utilities or contractors don't rip and tear our water and sewer pipes.
Mhm. There was another one here. I didn't understand. I'll find it. Go ahead.
We, just to highlight a couple things, we received a notice of violation from the health department that we did not do our testing. The health department did find our test results. It was misfiled in their location. We do not have a violation. And then there was some testing that needed to be done with the lead and copper rule for the town and the village. We're currently working on that to get up to speed with the Kentucky County Health Department for approval of the various test sites in the town and village districts. I also have a water course in Potsdam dealing with backflow prevention program. It's being instructed by the New York State Department of Health out of Albany. It's in Potsdam. I'd like the board to authorize the expenditure of $40 for registration fees for 2 individuals. It's on January 10th in Potsdam. We use a village truck to go up there. I just have to send the $40 in with the registration for the class. I also have,
Okay, we'll bring that up under new business.
I have one other thing to bring up under your new business section. We need to get a new warning light for the pickup truck when we're plowing or cleaning when it snowstorms. A good light is around $115, but it'll be a light that we can actually see instead of a small strobe that is barely seen in the daylight hours. Nighttime it's fine, but daylight hours nobody pays attention to the strobe. So we get a regular rotating light similar to what's on a lot of the other plow vehicles. We also have some equipment I'd like to be able to put out to bid with the board's permission. There's a surplus to the 1992 dump truck. It's inspected, it's on the road. It's a good truck for anybody that would need one, but we don't need 3 dump trucks. We also have a used airflow sander in working condition. We don't really need 2 sanders. We would have to have 1 dump truck free in case we have water breaks or hauling snow, so we can build sculptures.
Those are
Okay, we'll bring that up under new business also, Woody.
And we also have a 1987 International truck put out for bid for parts only. It's not inspectable, it's not runnable, not running.
As is.
As is. But we have to indicate that it's not running for parts only when we put it out for bid.
Send it for scrap. Keep the tires off of it.
We're having problems with our touchpad for reading water meters. I've got a few phone calls out. I've also contacted the manufacturer of the one we have right now.
Isn't that new? Last year?
No, that's about 6 years old.
What was replaced last year with them?
This will-
The readers, the touchpad things?
No, we replaced the touchpads on the houses, but now our reader for the touchpad is not working.
Okay.
You put a 9-volt battery in it and it drains it in a day. We're looking at an expense there in the water budget. I haven't received any pricing back as to even if this one can be repaired or replacement. I'm still sourcing the pipe locator and magnetic locators. I've had one vendor come up with a demonstrator model. It's a nice machine, it has a 5-year warranty, but I think we're gonna have to budget that in the upcoming budget. We'll have to borrow somebody's or something as we get more UFPOs in the springtime, but we're looking at approximately $2,500 for something that'll work, do 300 or 400 feet of pipe that we can mark, if we have to mark out that much, or that distance. Right now, we're only going 10 feet and we lose signals with our current machine. What else? I think that covers it. If there's any questions or concerns.
So I have a couple questions, Woody. I've had several people ask me about the skating rink. I guess that was quite popular. People are wondering when we're gonna do that
It's-
again?
It's flooded.
It's fine.
It's
It is?
flooded. Well, we'll clean it off tomorrow and see what condition our ice is in.
Oh,
But it is flooded. We've been flooding it off and on over the past week. Hopefully we have no air pockets in it where somebody's gonna go skating along and clunk out.
and the other question I had, will you have our first month's data from the border affluent line?
It's on the table in the back. I haven't hooked it up to download.
We do have a month's worth.
We have the
of
machine.
data, though?
We have the machine inside. We just have to download it off the computer, if my computer will allow me to do it.
Is there any-
Yeah, I might have to use Donna's, or
Use mine.
I might have to bring it home.
Okay, any other questions on Woody's report?
Yeah, Woody, have you been experimenting with one guy in a truck plowing?
Yeah, we're still experimenting on that. We haven't got, right now we're dealing with a new truck. We've already, clipped a couple mailboxes with our new truck. It's different distances, different heights of the wing. I'm gonna make it work. I'd like to try it, see if it will work.
I was out today, and you met me on Elm Street.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed you're by yourself. I'm just concerned about, places where you have to turn around by backing up when you're by yourself. I just wanna make sure that we keep that in mind. Because one of the questions I had in the discussion I had today was, well, Ross's Point does it, the state does it, why can't we do it? And the comeback was that Ross's Point and the state doesn't have dead ends where they have to back up and turn around. Most places they have a circle or a turnaround. I'm not saying that I agree that that's an issue, but is
It
the
is.
second guy getting out of the truck to make sure
No, the
there's
second
no one
guy does
behind
not
him?
get out of the truck.
So how is that an advantage to have a second guy in there then, by being at a dead end street?
There is none?
There really isn't any, because I've plowed myself, and the second man, Chris Elvin, gets out of the truck. unless you've hit a mailbox or a sign pole.
It's kinda handy because there's no radio in the truck.
And please refrain from making comments. This part of the meeting is for the board, and unless we have a question for somebody, we really want to keep things moving along.
So the years I plowed, there was no, we very seldom did the shotgun driver unless the passengers ever get out of the truck.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on Woody's report? Okay, now we'll move to correspondence. Thank you, Woody, for your report. I just want to make one comment, and I'm sure everybody on board wants to say this, and everybody's done a great job keeping the streets clear so far this year. And hoping we don't get that big snowstorm, but it's just a matter of time. Okay. Go on.
Correspondence from New York State DOT regarding the water line under the bridge on Route 9 over the Great Shazy River. Correspondence from A.M. Derringer regarding unpaved road shoulder, which is causing problems at the West Service Road and Locust Street location. Correspondence to Scott Yell regarding the dead trees on the South Street property. Notice violation of Clinton County Health Department to the Village of Champlain. Notice violation of Clinton County from Clinton County Health Department to the town of Champlain. And a letter from Superintendent Kissel to the town regarding this issue. Information from Attorney Keeble regarding local law number 2 of 2005, local law to abolish the position of village justice. Correspondence from Empire Blue Cross regarding the HMO renewal.
Okay, is there, I guess we have everything there covered under new business. Old business, I think we touched on where we're at with trying to obtain a grant. GSA, we're metering that presently. We have we're obtaining data at this present time. The Parks grant, we're going to finish that this summer. Time Warner, Kim mentioned about they'll be getting together on that. And the village justice position.
Back on the grant writer, should I contact the grant writers, say keep calling me and say that we're not interested in them, or to keep holding on? Because they're looking for an answer.
Well, it's difficult at this time because, like Bernier and Carr said, we don't know what form an improvement to the water system might take, if it's a water tower, pumps, looping, what they're going to come up with. So it's difficult to have somebody proceed with a grant until we know exactly what we're looking for.
Right, and they've said that too. Yeah.
So, I mean, we are making headway now. I think we're moving forward. It's just a matter of time till we find out exactly what we want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Or what's feasible. I guess I have a question for you, Juanita. Is it appropriate this time to vote on that village law to abolish the justice position, or should we wait for further comment?
You need to vote on it.
Okay.
Okay, you need to pass it tonight that you want to abolish the justice position. The general public we have 5 days, we have to have it posted that we have passed this law. The general public has 30 days to file a petition.
Okay.
And if after the 30 days, nobody files a petition, then it becomes the local law.
Okay, well then, we'll act on that. Read that.
Here.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Yep.
Okay, I'll read the law first, and then we can make a motion. Of the officers and employees law is hereby amended to add the following. It is the intent of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Champlain, Clinton County, New York, to abolish and terminate the position of village justice position pursuant to its authority under the village law, section 3-301, 3-302, and 3-303. It is the intent of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Champlain, New York, to immediately terminate the village justice position, which is due to expire on March 21st, 2006. On April 1st, 2006, the Champlain Village Justice Court would cease to exist. Town courts would adjudicate on or after April 1st, 2006, on all matters necessitating the intervention of the local justice court system, both criminal and civil actions, originating in the Village of Champlain or adjudicated in the Village of Champlain court system shall be docketed in the Town of Champlain Justice Court. Within 5 days of the effective date of this local law, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Champlain shall file a copy of such local law with the clerk in the Town of Champlain and with the State Office of Court Administrators. So I would entertain a motion to enact Village Law 2.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Do we have to do a roll call on this? or-
I would.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this proposed law?
I think it's worth knowing that we've discovered that we probably save $12,000 a year, right? It's-
Have to be voted on. But
Yeah.
general public, or just us?
No, well, it depends. If somebody makes a petition, it would go to a public referendum. Is there any further discussion? Trustee Trombley,
Aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
Trustee Southwick,
Aye.
Trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Mayor Moore, aye. Okay. Now I move on to computers. So we need at least 2 quotes. I believe we have 2 quotes here.
Yeah, I think
Three.
that was
Three.
3 or 4.
3.
Yeah, it's 3. HP.
I reviewed these. I'm sure everyone else has their, as with computers, there's lots of differences. Do you have a recommendation, Juanita, as to which computers you think would be?
Don and I were discussing it, we thought maybe that we would, if we stayed locally, that with Mike, as Mike does all our, if we have problems, comes over and fixes them.
Okay, which one would that be?
That would be
East side.
the East side.
His price was very comparable.
Are we in the discussion phase here?
Well, I guess we should
Make a motion.
make a motion. Well, we could make a motion to go with east side, and then if we don't, if we want to change that, then we can after discussion. Okay, so we should do a motion then. So we want to make a motion that we purchase the computers from east side. I think it's 3 computers and a laser printer, am I correct?
Correct.
They were all from east side?
Yes.
What you're looking at? Okay, so is there a motion?
Amy.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, open the floor to discussion.
Did you get the impression from Mike that it may take more than the 3 hours for the installation and transfer of files?
No.
I don't think so.
That's
I
the
mean, I
only
don't
thing
know
I'd
for
like to
sure.
see is that we could get him to commit to, getting it done.
I think he kind of wrote that because then he wouldn't charge us anymore if he did them, you know. If we purchased them from someplace else, then we'd have to pay Mike to come over and transfer his
Transfer the
files.
files anyway.
Okay.
The other thing also is, we won't have any
Some places you get the shipping free, but they all seem to charge you a handling charge from what I can tell. Also, the software package that he quoted was actually a better package than what I had got from the other ones at a better price. I looked at that price for what he quoted on the other ones, and they were $100 to $150 more for that particular software.
What kind of warranty is he gonna offer us?
I think it's a 1 year, it says on there.
1 year all
One year parts and labor on
Parts
site.
and labor on site.
Which is,
on site?
yeah,
Good.
yeah. He said that the printer, he quoted 3 different ones. The one where we can connect, the network printer, I think we have enough ports from what he's saying that we can all connect to the one printer.
Oh, nice.
So we can pretty much eliminate 3 printers if that's where you wanna go.
Is that the $299 one? or-
3, I think it's 3, was it the last
370,
one? I think so.
379.
Yeah, 379.
So that would include the new printer we just purchased, eliminating, because the checks don't print with this program anymore on that.
That printer was never used for that. The one that we just got was for Janice's reports, which was a dot matrix. But the dot matrix that I have was doing checks before, but with our new software for our payroll program, it won't accommodate dot matrix, a printer. You have to print it on a laser.
Okay, so then that would be obsolete.
Other than the
We could
water
put
sewer
it out to
billing.
sell it.
No, I have to
You
keep
have
it
to
for
have
water
it for
sewer
water.
billing now.
What do we need a color printer, laser printer for?
I don't think we have to have one, I mean, not that I can think of.
It's just that the cartridges are more expensive for the color printers than the black and white ones.
Yeah, that isn't gonna be a problem with the checks, right?
I don't
They're
think
black and white now.
yeah.
Just don't put the color ink.
So, I don't know, I've never used
Such
a
a big
laser printer, so I'm not
They
sure.
were like, oh my God.
I'm assuming we're gonna get a lot more copies with a laser cartridge than we are with an ink cartridge, so. We won't be replacing ink quite as often. I'm assuming it's a little more expensive though. but,
It is.
Yeah, well, the big feature with that is it's not gonna, somebody's gonna get their check wet
Yeah.
and have it melt.
That's important.
Are these 2005 computers, are they?
They're the latest version, yeah. I think he's got the XP Professional.
If we've been using ME.
Yeah, I
One
mean,
of the
they're,
worst systems that came out.
well, that's what's
I've got
causing
one of
the
those.
problem.
Yeah.
with The payroll.
Really?
program.
Mhm.
I mean,
Oh my gosh. Torture now.
Torch
Not hurt
itself, I
anything
didn't
good.
have to.
How did this compare price-wise to the?
Well, if,
Same or?
his is a little bit more, but again, the software package that he's including there is, I didn't have that on the quotes, and I didn't have a chance to redo them all, but they're usually around between $300 and $400 with the other companies. So his pricing on that software package at I think $279, I believe is what it was, or $259.
$259.
Was, at least $50 to $100 less than.
Yeah, it looks like
anyplace
it's
else.
cheaper,
Yeah,
actually, than actually all the others.
yeah.
There's no newer Microsoft Office in 2003.
I'm not sure on that one. I really don't know, to be honest with you there.
Microsoft Office is your software stuff for Excel, Word, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I
the
don't think they
latest-
changed
That's
it
the latest and greatest, I
Often,
think.
Plus, that one has PowerPoint and Access also.
He's gonna be doing PowerPoint presentations for us.
Need a projector.
Yeah.
New meetings.
We already
Of course.
discussed that, we're sourcing that now.
So smart.
You went from school and bringing pictures of the snow.
Pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, is Office on there? I don't see it.
Yeah, it's
I think
listed
it's at
over
the
here.
bottom.
Includes Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, Access.
I wrote it in
Oh,
because it
that's-
was.
We're not gonna
Yeah,
be
that's
using
expensive.
pros and.
It is, that suite is very expensive, so
I don't understand why.
I don't know either.
It's just, it is.
Is it because they have a monopoly?
Yeah. Could be.
Okay, so, okay, well, I don't know how everybody else is, I'm comfortable with the computers. Now, which printer were we talking about here?
Well,
You need a laser.
we either,
Yes, I know that.
I don't, if we wanna do the network, I personally, I think that's a good idea. We have a nice printer, and we can all use it. Quality should be much better than what we have now. I don't know, I haven't really talked to my other colleagues to see how they feel with a network printer, but
Okay, well, I'll buy into that. I guess I have the same
Yeah.
question as you have, Steve, is like, we need a color printer. I'm not convinced of that, but.
If we ever have to do any graphing and tracking of anything, it's gonna be a lot easier to have a color printer if we start doing charts.
yeah, especially if you got the PowerPoint on there. I would think,
Well,
that would be,
we're printing of charts and for graphing, either whether it be flows and stuff at the wastewater plant, we've done the charts down there using a color printer. It's a lot easier to follow month by month based on your flows and stuff.
There's one used in color all the time, so.
You know, you could actually take that cartridge out and put the big block one in and leave it in until you have to do charting.
I have to say I don't agree, because with graphs, you can either fill it in or you can slash it, or you can designate graphs using black and white just as well as you can use it for color.
Well, do we still have a colored inkjet printer?
yes. Mine.
So if we had to do something that we needed color, we could probably use that, right?
True.
Yeah, you could do it as secondary printer.
Secondary printer.
That's
I hadn't
idea.
thought of that one.
Okay, so we're talking east side, which we said, and we're talking the 299 network ready
Black
laser
and-
jet, right?
Black and white, what is it?
Okay, is there any further discussion on this? Yeah, if not, should we do roll call on these types of items, one either?
Yeah, I'm
On
sorry.
budget
You-
items?
Yeah, well, that's money.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
Aye.
trustee Southwick,
Aye.
trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Mayor Moore, aye. Okay. Now, to deal with the computers, because we have a formula for the public works, water, sewer departments, since they're all used for all of them, we need to do some fund transfers. So I would entertain a motion to transfer from Fund A909 to A1410.2, $1,000. From A909 to A1325.2, $1,000. From F909 to F8310.2, $800. And from G909 to G8110.2, $1,200. So I would entertain a motion to do those transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Okay. Is there any discussion on the transfers? If not, trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
Aye.
trustee Southwood,
Aye.
trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Mayor Moore, aye. Okay, now would entertain a motion, guess I have to read this.
Don't sound so excited.
To do a bond anticipation note to pay for the pump for the water system. We have enough money in there to do that, but it may cut us short for the rest of the year, so we're gonna do this bond anticipation note. It has a provision in there that we can pay it off if we have the money left at the end of the year. But,
No charge at the bid, right?
right, no
No.
penalty. Okay, I guess I have to read, okay. Bond resolution dated December 12th, 2005. A resolution authorizing the issuance of $7,500 in bonds of the Village of Champlain, County of Clinton, New York, to pay the cost of the purchase of a potable water pump in and for said village. Whereas all conditions precedent to the financing of the capital project hereafter described include compliance with the provisions of the State Environmental Quality Review Act have been performed, and whereas it is now desired to authorize the financing of such capital project, now therefore be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the Board of Trustees, Village of Champlain, Clinton County, New York, the village as follows. The purchase of a potable water pump in and for the Village of Champlain, Clinton County, New York, including incidental expenses in connection therewith, is hereby authorized at a maximum estimated cost of $7,500. It is hereby determined that the plan for financing of aforesaid maximum estimated cost is by the issuance of $7,500 serial bonds of the village, hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local financing law. It is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid project or purpose is 40 years pursuant to subdivision 1, paragraph A of section 11.00 of the local finance law. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the bonds herein authorized will not exceed 5 years. The faith and credit of said Village of Champlain, Clinton County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for the payment of the principal of and interest on such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. To the extent not paid with other monies, there shall annually be levied all the taxable real property of said village, a tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on such bonds as they become due and payable. Subject to the provisions of the local finance law and power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the village treasurer, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of terms, form, and contents, and shall be sold in a manner as prescribed by the said village treasurer, consistent with the provisions of local finance laws. All other matters except as provided herein relating to such bonds, including determining whether to issue such bonds as a statutory installment bond, and all matters related thereto, prescribed herein, and the manner of execution of the same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue several bonds with substantially level or declining annual debt service, and all matters relating thereto, shall be determined by the village treasurer, the chief fiscal officer of the village. Such bonds shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause as provided in section 52.00 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be informed and contain such recitals in addition to those required in section 51.00 of the local finance law, as the village treasurer shall determine consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. The validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said village is not authorized to expend money, or the provisions of law which should be complied with at the date of the publication of this resolution are not substantially complied with. And an action suit proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. This resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for the purposes of Treasury Regulations, Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified by this resolution, no monies are are or reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis or otherwise set aside with respect to permanent funding of the object or purpose described herein. This resolution, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in full and summary and form in the official newspaper of said village for such purpose, together with the notice of the village clerk substantially in the form provided in section 8100 of the local finance law. Reading that next time, Juanita.
I think that is her job.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. Yeah, I guess we have a motion. Is there any further discussion on this?
What is the interest rate?
Yeah.
Nowhere in there does it say.
What you do, okay, go ahead, Juanita.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
What we do, you have to go to at least 4 places, ask for the rates, and you take the lowest rate of the places that you went. Right, am I correct?
3.
3, okay, I'm sorry.
Champlain National gave me 4.5%, TD Bank North was 4.5%, and Key Bank was 3.85.
Okay, we're bound to take the lowest one. And it does have a provision for early payback, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Martin?
Oh, wait a minute.
Right, we didn't have a motion.
We didn't have a motion?
Motion.
I don't
Thought
have
you
it.
did. Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion then. Sorry.
So moved.
Second? Okay. Trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
Aye.
trustee Southwick,
Aye.
trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Mayor Moore, aye. The ayes have it. Okay, the engineering study, we're gonna be taking that up next week, the 21st, or is that, yeah.
Yes.
So, we'll move that to old business.
Can I just say something here? I know it may sound a little redundant, but I know you said that we're gonna hold off in discussing the wastewater at the shared service, but if there's a grant available that might cover the cost of doing the engineering on the wastewater, would that not be advantageous to us to go ahead with that as well?
Well, we wanna bring that up at the next meeting, but
Okay.
the big thing that's on there right now is the water. We do wanna bring that up and continue on with it, yes.
But if we could possibly get that study covered, wouldn't we better off
Yeah,
to do
yes,
that?
yes, we should.
Okay.
I didn't mean to imply that we weren't gonna bring it up. It was
Okay,
just that this is the one we had done the most talking about, is the water project.
okay.
And that would naturally, you know what I'm saying, be part of a joint venture in shared services.
well, yeah.
As long as, you know, dog catching and, you know, any other type of stuff that we could minimize the expense to us as a group. Dog control, excuse me.
And it is only dog. They do not catch any other animal.
Just dogs.
Just dogs.
Okay.
No cats, no raccoons, no skunks. Dogs only.
Okay, and under new business also, I need to make an announcement that Evergreen Bank, which was one of the banks that we approved to do business with, at our organizational meeting, has changed its name to TD Bank North. It's the same bank, it's just a different name, so that's also an approved bank. Okay. Next thing we have is we have to pick an insurance to go with for this year. The one that seemed to be the consensus of opinion to go with was the Alternative Empire HMO. I guess I would entertain that would involve an increase of 1.5% over last year versus 12% to stay with the plan that we had previously. So I'd entertain a motion to go with the Alternative Empire HMO.
So moved.
In a second. Okay, any discussion? And if not, we'll proceed to vote. Trustee Champlain,
Aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
Trustee Southwick,
Aye.
Trustee Garrett,
Aye?
Mayor Moore, aye. Okay, we, have had a problem lately with, the rates at the bank that we were doing business with. Juanita and Donna came up with, some quotes on what we could pay going to a different bank. And I think Juanita has a recommendation there. You wanna go ahead and explain that to everyone?
Well, in talking with Amy, I know it was ongoing with Janice as to bank charges. She has flat out told me that Key Bank does not offer free services anymore. And whatever we have charged so far as to the bank charges for the last 2 years that's been ongoing, they will not adjust their bank charges at all. So in the future, if the rates go down for the savings account, you're not earning interest to cover those service charges, you will be charged. They do not offer free checks, nothing. She wasn't very perceptive. So we proceeded to go to Champlain National for quotes and TD Bank North, which we observed to be the better rating. No bank charges, no fees.
No check charges?
No check charges, nothing. Municipality banking is free.
So did you have a recommendation, Juanita, for which bank that you wanted to go with?
TD Bank North seemed to be the better.
How do you do your deposits right now? Do you physically take them to Key
Yes.
Bank? How are you gonna address that change?
We actually only go to the bank in the busy months, maybe once a week probably. I don't think that's gonna be a major problem. I know there's been some talk about direct deposits with your payroll. TD Bank North does do that. They do have online banking, so if we need to transfer funds,
So you don't see that as an issue then?
no.
How do the other banks compare?
Okay, before we do any more discussion, I guess we should have a motion. Anybody want to make, I just wanted to know what bank she was, Juanita was recommending. Okay, I would entertain a motion to switch to TD Bank North.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, now I'll open it to discussion. Go ahead, Greg.
What are the differences between Champlain National here, as I've been looking at it real fast, and
Actually,
TD Bank
Champlain
North?
National does have a charge. They charge you
$7.
$7 per account.
Yeah. Plus 30 cents per check.
Plus they charge you, yeah, that's the
Really?
same thing like Key Bank had.
Oh, okay.
Per item deposited, per item cashed.
And Citizens Bank?
Citizens Bank, there was what was it?
Savings and loan
Savings
bank.
and loan.
Apparently, we cannot do business with them, according to what Mrs. Dawson had told us.
That kind of narrows down the field, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely for saving money. I think, from what I see here, we incurred substantial service charges for something that we could have gotten for free.
I don't understand why they charge so much.
It's outrageous.
I mean, the amount of business and money that we put in there and take out and move around.
Yeah.
And even when you told them that we were gonna be potentially moving our business, it didn't matter.
Well, then Jan, after I went to her, and said, how come these charges, well, when Beth was there, Beth used to automatically take them off. Janice was going to see her, but then Amy came along and then she didn't do it anymore. For a few months they got done, and then after that, when Jean would do the bank things, just keep getting up, Janice would go over and talk to her, and she'd say, well, I'll see what I can do. So then it come to the point when I came in, and all these charges, and I went over and talked with Amy, and she had spoke with Janice again, and then her reply was, well, why should I do anything if yours are going to change?
So it seems like it didn't matter whether they had our business or not.
Okay, is there any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor of switching to TD Bank North, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, something that we need to have done also, that they clued us into with the state, is we need to do an income study. Now, there's a state group that does this for free. We just need to go ahead and turn them loose to do that. A lot of this funding depends on how the average income of the people, residents that are being served by this. And the town is, I believe, doing one for South Street right now. I would like to have a motion to go ahead and have RCAP do an income study for Champlain. If you are under a certain amount, you have a chance at these grants. Really, if you're over a certain amount, it's almost impossible to get a grant. So I think we're okay here, but we just need to have that study done.
Has it ever been done before?
Yes, I
Yeah,
think it was
years
done.
ago.
Years ago?
But it has to be done within the last 3-8 years
Right, and
or
we're-
something like that.
5 or something, we're just over the amount of time.
And I think we were just over an amount, so it would probably,
Yeah.
we can't do any
46.
worse doing another
Right, we
survey,
can do
but we
better.
could do better.
Is this a survey, a telephone thing, or a written survey?
I'm not
It's a
sure how they do
mailing.
it, it's a mailing, I
Yeah,
believe.
Mailing?
when
And
Fred,
It's all coded, so it's all confidential. So say, for example, my home would be coded, so that they know who had, sent in the response, so they can ask them, we really need this response. We need to have a certain number of residents that will respond to this income statement. And then if we reach a certain percentage of low-income families in the village, our point rating goes through the roof, and we're gonna qualify for whatever we want to qualify for. That's what we're hoping to get from this. And there's no charge, we've just gotta talk it up among people, don't be afraid to respond to it, it is completely confidential. Put in and go from there.
That's all we need to supply is a mailing list.
Mhm.
So I would entertain a motion to go ahead and do an RCAP income study.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? So you already had that.
Well, can I just ask one thing?
Yeah.
When we do this, within the next few years, this community's income level is gonna change probably very drastically. Is there any, I don't know how you would approach that with them. Because if you're looking at people's income levels now, and we don't hit a certain level, in a year or two from now, we might.
Yeah, well, you can redo these, at another date, but to proceed, we need to do one now.
Is there a fee or anything if we
No.
choose to do, if we choose to do it again in, say, 2 or 3 years from now?
Not really, it's a state group that does this, so it's paid for by the state.
And we had mentioned that to them, that obviously it's going to be changing dramatically here soon. Even some changes
Well,
will
that-
occur in January.
That's my
The
concern.
first round, and then the next round will be a couple of years, obviously, away, but we can do it, it's free of charge.
Yeah, the next round won't be a couple years away, but,
Oh, it isn't. I thought the next one wasn't for 2 years.
No.
no.
Okay.
That was my only concern, was that we could do this
Oh,
again
yeah.
periodically.
Well, and that's what we're doing now, because I think we were a little over on the last one, they said, but. So we can't do any worse.
Did you have good response last time? I don't know anything about this.
I don't know what the response was, it was an adequate response, but it wasn't the response we needed to, get the better points that we needed. We
Yeah,
were
that was
just
a few
off by
years ago.
3%.
Is there anything we can do to increase response?
Talk it up,
Would it be advisable to put a notice in the paper when it comes around,
We probably could do that, couldn't we?
Vicky, yeah?
You have to get 80% of a response. If you don't, then they're gonna ask the town or the village board to go out, and they're gonna identify the people that didn't answer the questionnaire, and then someone has to go out and physically try to get them to do it, because you have to hit at least an 80% response.
Yeah, right, they do a statistically significant survey. It has to have certain elements to be what they consider accurate. And they won't just take, they got 10 people and they're satisfied with that. It's all done in a scientific sampling manner.
So those of you who make a lot of money, don't respond. The rest of you, fill it out right away.
I think that's why they catch you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. Something else I'd like to deal with under new business. This has come up, I think it came up at last meeting, I don't think we've done anything, but Woody, I'd like you to investigate the practicality of maybe getting some kind of an economy vehicle. I know, like when we go to Potsdam, we take the big diesel truck. There's times when they have to go back and forth between the sewer plant. Maybe a small used economy vehicle would be a smart thing to have, rather than to do all our, we go to Plattsburgh to get a couple of parts. We're using the truck, we're tying it up, just to see if it's practical, at this point.
Trade dump truck for one.
I have one sitting in my driveway.
Yes, Donna?
The Caprice is
I'm not, I'll let check out about it, but I know there's one at the credit union that'll be coming up for bid. It's a car. It's a four-door.
It's a Cavalier.
It's a 2004. I think it's got 34,000 miles on it.
We should be able to pick up something rather
Sure, looking
cheaply.
for a
We're not looking at something expensive, just, is there something that we could do, to save a little bit of money on these trips? The price of gas is back down a little bit now, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna stay down.
We need to look at like a two-wheel drive S10 or Ranger or something like that. If we had to pick up something large,
Well,
we could put it in the back.
I was thinking of something even like cheaper than that, like just something to transport people. Periodically we have training, Albany.
No more than usually 2 people go, usually.
Okay.
So you go with like a little Toyota or?
Yeah, so I'm talking about an S10 Toyota.
Is there a state bid on this? State bid process on
Well, I don't have S10s anymore. The only thing I've seen online right now is the Rangers.
I was kind of looking at something anyway, you could come back to us with what you find.
You'd be state bid pricing on the vehicles are around 10,000.
I got a really cheap one in my driveway.
But there's also some things out there for alternative fuel vehicles, and they're encouraging municipalities to purchase them, and they also subsidize some of the funding with them. So I'll look at
Okay,
that.
well, I was kind of looking to save money.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah,
Like
well,
a
come
free
back,
vehicle?
let us know what you find out. Okay. We have these 2 seminars, I don't know if anybody wants to do anything with them. They're dealing with difficult people and dealing effectively with unacceptable employee behavior. Anybody have any interest in that?
Which one you want? I think we ought to send somebody there.
Well, actually, that dealing effectively with unacceptable employee behavior looked like a pretty good one. I think it was $200. It's in Burlington. I think they're both in
Yeah,
Burlington.
both in Burlington. How to communicate with management skill.
I just recently went to one last Monday, and it was an excellent earnings tool.
Was it for a
And that was
prior one?
managing difficult employees.
Very good.
Okay, well, I entertain a motion to send Woody to dealing effectively with unacceptable employee behavior seminar. I
So
think it's
moved.
$200. Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, we entertain this time a motion to surplus the 92 truck and the 87 truck for parts.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
You got a sander in there too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the sander, yeah. The 92 truck with the sander, sorry. You're right.
You're gonna need that as a.
Three separate items.
Three separate items, okay, truck, 92 truck, and,
The sander,
well, the sander separate, okay. And the 87 truck
As
for parts.
is.
Yeah, as is.
as is, emphasize as is.
Well, we should advertise that, if,
Mhm.
so that somebody
I
doesn't know.
suggest that the village reserves the right to reject any bids that are deemed unacceptable when they put it out for bid.
We can all the parts off and
Okay,
tires and all
That's-
that.
It's usually stated, I think, in the,
I think
Bid
it's
contract.
part of the bidding process. Okay, entertain motion to do that,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, and I think the final item is to send 2 men to Potsdam. Or what's that training, Woody?
Backflow prevention. It's important. We have to have a law on the books by the middle of next year.
Okay, I remember reading about that. Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
is there any discussion? Does this have contact hours, Woody?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into recess to discuss a personnel issue.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll go into recess.